Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Self Improvement for Women. I am your host, Hope Long, and I'm excited today because we have Claire Atyeo with us. Hi, Claire.
Hi, great to be here.
Yay, I'm so excited. Claire is an empowerment coach. She's a shamanic practitioner. She's also a motivational speaker, and we've got some heavy stuff to talk about today. Yeah.
We have indeed. Well, heavy or gritty? It's
Gritty is the right word.
gritty, yeah.
Gritty is the right word. Awesome. So yeah, go ahead and kind of tell us, people at home may not know what shamanic practitioner means, and then kind of like go on to a little bit about, your background.
Right, okay. Well, shamanic practitioner, it's a title basically. It's just a title because we live in a world where we need titles and to give ourselves names and labels. That's just how we work. But shamanism is it's a way of being, a way of life. It's a connection to our ancestral heritage, a connection to the planet, to the earth. Um, it's it's like our old grandmothers, the wise woman, the wise man, the chief, the healer that when we lived in tribes, we would actually go to. They would be the ones that to impart the wisdom, they would be the ones to do the natural healing. And so that's kind of like the practitioner side of it. And then the personal side of it is how I choose to live my life, my belief systems, the way I actually construct my life. So yeah, it's fantastic. The coaching came about. I've been doing natural healing now for 8 years, and that started from, like most of us, being in a really dark place, a really bad place, and thinking, I just don't want to get up anymore. I just don't want to be on this hamster wheel anymore. And having that deep understanding that something had to change, and coming from health profession background, it was natural for me to step into natural health. That was where I wanted to look. There's so many indicators, always our life path, there's so many indicators as we go along, but we kind of tend to be blindsided by them. It usually takes a traumatic event or an incident in life for us to actually kind of open those shutters and actually see the reality of everything that's been put in front of us. And I started with EFT, which is a emotional freedom technique. Most people know it as tapping.
Yeah.
And from that, from the clients I was getting from that, I was kind of like, hello, I'm actually coaching more here. So although I'd kind of done all these energy modalities in this natural healing pathway, within that I was doing a lot of coaching. And then it was like, right, okay, this is obviously the way I'm being guided to go. And so for the last 5 years, I've been focused on the coaching with women, focused on really clearing and guiding women to step into who they truly are, step into their full potential of what they want to be, because that gets lost in translation from the second we're born, both men and women, but I focus specifically with women. So
That is so awesome. I love that. And so is the coaching and the shamanism, are they tied together at all?
yeah,
A little bit.
yeah,
Okay.
always. I actually, my own healing journey is I needed to do the healing, but I also needed coaching. I needed to know how. I needed somebody by my side to ask the right questions so that I could find the right answers.
Right.
And that's basically what coaching is. It's having somebody with the experience that will ask the right questions. We don't do things as coaches for people. We don't say, oh, well, you need to be doing this and you need to be doing that and you need to be. No, it's about asking the right questions so that people can dig deeper within themselves to find the right answers for what they want and what they want to achieve.
Yes.
And I was in a position, because I was still playing out a lack mindset, that I never had the finance for both. And so when I started, obviously I started with the energy healing, and then when the coaching came in, it was just a natural progression to roll the two in together. So yeah, shamanism comes in. You will find, because shamanism, people think more of kind of a spiritual
Right. That was kind
aspect
of the way my brain was going with it.
rather than a corporate coaching aspect. But actually, anything that is personal development is spiritual development, because we're growing ourselves. And spirituality is about ourselves. It's about how we connect with ourselves, how we connect with others, and how we connect with the world.
Yeah.
So it is,
it's all intertwined.
It's a fusion. It's a fusion of the two. And so I actually incorporate the two, because even within coaching, and you will know this, you will ask those questions, they will start to dig, and then they will come up against barriers. Now, if you don't have tools, healing tools or modalities in your toolbox as a coach, you then have to send them elsewhere. And that's really kind of that breaks that continuity, and that for them and for you. So it's good to have both in there.
Yes. And one of the things that you kind of specialize, and I think it has a lot to do with this fusion, is breaking or blowing up like old foundations. That's what we had kind of touched on this a little bit. So can you go into that a little bit and kind of give us a better idea of what that means?
Yeah, it's within asking those questions is gaining the understanding of what beliefs, values, programs you have that you're running, that you learned as a child, because we build our belief systems of who we are and what we can do from the age of 0 to 7. Those are our primary years. We absorb everything like sponges, and then we build that foundation of our own persona. But the problem is we're not diving into, because we don't have the intellectual development at that age to decipher what belongs to us and what we've absorbed and taken in from other people, our parents, our peers, grandparents, our social environment. And so very often when we start digging into those questions, when people come to us as coaches, we then look, and what I specifically do is I love getting into, right, okay, what's those foundational beliefs that you're running now at the moment, and just asking the questions, so we kind of go and blow it all apart, and then pulling back the pieces of what resonates with you, because that is a belief and that is a value that you've actually learned, that you value yourself, that is important to you. So it's not about getting rid of everything, but it's sorting through the wheat in the chaff. So yeah. What do you want to keep? What do you want to stay? And why do you want to? And understanding why you want to keep things, really taking it very deep. Why are you want? Because initially we kind of go, oh no, that's a really strong belief of mine, and I want to keep that. But actually, when you start digging a bit deeper, it's got nothing to do with you. It doesn't even align with who you are. It aligns with who everybody wanted you to be.
Right. And we find that a lot in, maybe in the religious aspect, growing up in a certain religion, growing up in a certain, even in a certain class of, economic class. There's beliefs about money, there's beliefs about, the religion, the education, all of that. And like, I didn't realize this so much until I got into like my mid-20s, right? And because I grew up, we weren't necessarily religious, but I went to a religious school because they were to teach me good values. They were to teach, from my parents, they wanted me to grow up with good values and manners and morals and things like that. While they don't necessarily practice that religion, it was made very clear, like, I wasn't there to be a Catholic. I was there to be a good person. And so I didn't really struggle so much as far as going to church every Sunday and then suddenly not going to church. It was just, I just automatically knew that. And then in my 20s, I was thinking, how did I really grow up? I grew up mid-economic, like we had a decent house, dad had a decent job. Excuse my dog. Talk about like reality check. So yeah, so growing up, Ace, I'll have to edit this out. He can't not be in here with me because he's like super needy, but he hears a truck outside. He's freaking out. But yeah, so growing up mid-economic, dad had a decent job. I got to participate in a lot of things that, I wanted to do. I wanted to be in band. I wanted to do all these, extracurriculars. And then I was looking, and as I was starting a business, I was thinking about my mindset and my money mindset. Well, it was predominantly clear that you had to work hard for money, right? Because dad worked really, really hard. And what I wanted to have was the mindset of money comes to me easily and frequently. I wanted that mindset, but I always found that at the end of the day, I had my furrowed brow, and I was like, why is this so difficult? Like, I can't do this. I can't make that. I'm never going to reach this goal. And that was my economic status chirping at me that I had carried from my childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it was just, it's amazing. And these are things that you don't really think about until you start diving in and asking those deeper questions. Where did this come from? Am I acting in the behavior that solidifies it, or, the opposite, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I love that analogy that you gave, because that is such a classic. That is one I struggled with, because I also we were middle class. My parents worked really, really hard to give us everything that they possibly could. And my father's teaching was, there is nothing you can't have in this world as long as you're willing to work hard for it. And so I went through all of my 20s, all of my 30s, working really, 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 really hard, to the point that I never had any work-life balance. And the one thing I want to say that you mentioned there was mindset. Mindset is very important, but the key to actually really changing and busting through those barriers is your energetic frequency.
Yes.
It's really changing the energetic footprints, because a lot of coaches will actually forget that, which is where me working with the energy and doing the shamanism really comes into play, because you have to change those energetic footprints for the mindset to really have the potency to bring in that manifestation. It has to be a combination of the two. And this is why people say, oh, I've done manifestations forever and it never works. No, because you're not aligned yourself with the correct frequency as well. It has to be that alignment with the frequency and the mental capacity. So it's your energetic body and your mental body.
Yes. Yeah. So and for people watching at home, like, how can we start to change our energetic frequency? I know like gratitude and things like that have a lot to do with it. But yeah, could you dive in a little bit more?
Yeah, it's changing. It's a process. First of all, let's just say a process. You're not going to say, okay, I do need to do this modality and that's going to work for me, because we're all individual and we all resonate with different modalities, and there's millions and millions of different modalities out there that you can actually use to change your frequency. But think regular meditation, gratitude, the routine. The biggest key that I have found with really getting your frequencies aligned to whatever manifestation you want is self-love. Learning to love, trust, and honor yourself. If you're able to do that, if you're able to get into the frequency where you're not selfish, but you prioritize your needs. You become independent rather than codependent. And this is a massive, because society promotes codependency generation after generation after generation, to the point that we don't even realize that we are teaching codependency to our children.
Right.
It's and it's the breaking away, it's understanding, it's being able to see those programs of codependency, moving away from that, really embracing. And that's why I say it's a process, because it takes time, because there's going to be so many what I call little octopus tentacles going off in all sorts of different directions, that it will take time. You focus in one area, and then you have to focus in the next, and then into the next. So it's that process of really bringing the energies, bringing the consciousness to yourself,
Yes.
being accountable, being responsible, for, and coming from a place of wanting to be of service.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people, that's another key factor that a lot of people kind of misinterpret with manifestation. All the gold, all the jewels, all the gems, all the money, does that come to us? Yeah, because it's part of the abundance. But if that's your key focus, then very often you'll be waiting a very long time,
Yeah.
because it's just, that is what I call the overflow. You need to get into that energetic overflow for that abundance to be able to then pour in. Another key issue with manifestation is people are really good. I mean, and you can see this with lottery wins. I mean, they've done so many psychological programs on people that have never had anything, and then they have a massive lottery win, and then they kind of blow it all in one go. And it's that allowing, and that's why self-love is so important, because if you're not loving yourself, if you've got barriers up to that self-love, then you're not going to be able to receive.
Right.
And so the universe could be there going, you've asked for this, I'm waiting to give it to you, and you're going, no, don't want it. And this is all happening on an energetic level. And so many people are like, I've been trying to manifest this, but it's not coming to me. No, well, are you allowing it? And they kind of look at you kind of skewy eyes. What do you mean, why am I allowing it? Of course I'm allowing it. I want it, I'm asking for it. But the reality is very often they're rejecting it on an energetic level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important to note that, energetically changing your energy. Yes, you're doing like the manifestation. Yes, you're doing the gratitude stuff, and you're serving others. But it's also important to note that you have an awareness of your conscious self. And it's not just about loving how you look. It's not just about loving like maybe aspects of your personality or things like that. It's about loving the fact that you are a being at all, a conscious being, right? And it gets so much deeper than that. And I and this was like a big one for me, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. And when I came to realize, I was like, I was at work, and I was just looking around at all the customers, and I'm like, it just hit me all at once. I'm like, oh my God, I'm connected to every single one of these strangers. And I felt like I get goosebumps talking about it now. Like I got goosebumps, and I was like, oh, wow. And then I felt this big relief too. And that was like super, I don't even know how to describe it, but it changed everything. And, I saw change in my daily life, when I started to realize that I'm part of this bigger collective. Just little things that started to change. Things seemed to be going my way more often. Everything looked a little bit brighter. I was just having some happier days. And, but it's having that awareness, right? And that collective mindset, right? And the other thing that I really wanted to touch on too is that service for others, right? And as humans, literally, probably our only job as a human being is to help other human beings. Like that's all we got to do. And the world will just deliver your needs and your wants. And it's just, isn't it a positive a positive thought or a positive vibration is like 10 times more powerful than like a negative one. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why we always talk about frequencies. This is, with the energetic frequencies, and why it's so important to be of service. And why, going back to the self-love, it's not about being selfish, it's about taking absolute accountability and responsibility for yourself. And because we are all connected, allowing everybody else around you to take accountability and responsibility for themselves. When we say that, everybody goes, oh yeah, that's fine, that's lovely, oh yes, it's pretty. And it goes back with manifestation as well. That means taking accountability and loving your shadow self. And that's where we start to come unstuck. That's when we're kind of like, oh no, it's no, I'm not going to go there. I really don't like those aspects. Why would I want to embrace and love the parts of me that I know are really bad? And that's when the beliefs, the deep rooted beliefs of those foundations that we talked about at the very beginning, that we blow up, that's when they start to get highlighted, because people think, oh yeah, I've worked through my foundations, I've done the work, I've laid new found. When you start to go into that shadow self, when you start to really look at those bits that you have been brought up to believe are bad, that's when we really start to, that's why I said it gets gritty. It really gets gritty.
Yes. Oh, I love this. I love this so much. So, and I want to touch on one more thing too. We had talked previously, and we were talking about the programming from our parents. So we heard it, we visualized it, and we absorbed it energetically. And we just touched on this a little bit, kind of talking about that belief system that I had, for people at home, when we go in to start analyzing, our past and stuff, sometimes that can be like really, it's like reliving trauma in some ways for people. How could we maybe do this in a loving and receptive way? Because sometimes I think when I look back at stuff that has happened, I look back and it's immediate like dread or fear just thinking about that thing. And instead of looking at it like that, I suppose it's more important to look at it in an accepting way. And so do you have some advice for that?
It's interesting because as humans, and obviously being on my journey for 8 years, I've seen the change, and I've noticed the change within myself is with the EFT. I'm an EFT practitioner. That's what I trained to do. Right. That was one of my first modality that I went and learned in natural healing. I very rarely use it now because it can be very traumatic. You revisit the pain, you bring it up. And there's much more gentler ways, but that goes back to that psychology, that belief that we all have, that we've all been indoctrinated with: no pain, no gain. And is that loving? No, it's not. So there's lots of ways. I would always say start one, when you're revisiting, you're not revisiting because you're broken, is the first thing. You're revisiting because you want to grow. And it's like if you think about, obviously with the shamanism being connected with the earth, if you think about planting, you've got a flower bed. Will your flowers that you've just planted grow and blossom to their full capacity if that bed is full of weeds? If that bed is full of debris that doesn't need to be there anymore? And so we're going back and we're pulling out what is no longer needed. It's not because it's bad, it's not because it's ugly. I'm not saying that people don't have what they consider to be bad and ugly, but again, it's how we're talking to ourselves on that inner level.
Yeah. So
We're,
just be gentle with
yeah,
yourself.
be
Yeah.
very gentle and start with the things that you know will give you change but won't hurt.
Right.
Because then you're showing your body, you're showing your ego and all those little names, whatever you want to call it, those blockages that are stopping you from doing this. You're showing yourself that you're being kind to yourself, you're being loving to yourself. And so what you're actually doing is you're in that moment, you're reprogramming the program that doesn't value you, the program that doesn't think that you're worthy.
Yes.
And you're going, I love you, I love you, I love you. And you're slowly but surely reprogramming the way you think about yourself in a much gentler kind of way, which will give you the force and the power to do the bigger aspects.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Um, Thank you so much for coming on today. I love speaking with you. You're just a wealth of knowledge. You're, so wise. Um, I want to ask you, if you were to pass tomorrow, what is one thing you would want to leave with the world?
It's, I would love for everybody to be able to just live their life the way that they see fit, the way that is aligned with who they believe themselves to be in that moment, without all the pressures, without all the going on, without all the judgment, just to and to do that in such a way, knowing that we're all connected, and that it I would dearly love to see that humanity comes up to that level before I pass. I truly do. So do I want to leave that? I'd rather see it before I pass.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Thank you again for being here. You guys can follow Claire and add her. I've got all of her social medias here at the bottom. Thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you for having me. It's been a
Have
pleasure.
have a good rest of your day.
Bye.